Good evening, and welcome to the November 10th meeting of the Economics Development Subcommittee. All rise and salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Roll call of the members. Councilor Agenzio.
Here.
Here. Councilor Haas.
Here.
Here. Councilor Jaramillo.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. And Chairwoman Garina Swaya.
Here.
Here. A quorum is present. First matter on tonight's agenda is a motion presented by Councilors McKenna and Agenzio that the mayor request the Traffic Commission to assess the activation of the 15-minute grace period button on parking meters in the Broadway Central Business District. The activation of this feature will provide customers with free parking for 15 minutes to run quick errands without being penalized.
Councilman McKenna, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Joanne McKenna, Ward 1 Councilor. We put, Paul and Councilor Agenzio and I put this in because the patrons, the businesses were upset because they couldn't, people couldn't pick up their takeout, they couldn't pick up their cleaning, and they were getting ticketed. So I just want to explain that on the parking meters, there's a green button that you can press, and you can get a 15-minute grace period. You don't have to pay any money. What we're trying to do is start a pilot program, which we're doing. I know Shirley Ave got a grant for this, so it's going to be like 100%. Broadway doesn't have a grant, so we're only doing 8 meters. But if it works, we'll do the whole, where all the businesses are, all the restaurants, maybe from Valari's all the way down to Murray's. The new parts were ordered. The green buttons don't work currently, so they were ordered. They're coming in. They're coming in January, and then February they're going to install them, and then we should see the pilot program and Shirley Ave be all set with this. Thank you.
Any councilors? Paul Agenzio, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We've been working on this for quite a while. I sit on the Parking Advisory Commission with Councilor Novoselsky and Mr. Skorowski, and we've talked about this at length. The reason we're just doing a pilot program on Broadway, they want to see what impact it has on the revenue, because they can tell each meter how much money comes in. If it's successful, we'll take some more money out of the Parking Advisory kitty that we have and expand the program. The businesses came to Councilor McKenna and I quite a while ago. People just running in for takeout, a scratch ticket, going into the liquor store, an ATM, pick up their dry cleaning, as Councilor McKenna had said, and they run in for 5 minutes, come out and find a ticket on their car. So I think this is good for the businesses. People will be able to, do these short errands without having to feed the meter. I know Shirley Avenue is getting 100% of them. I do believe at the last Traffic Commission meeting, the rate on the meters went up a little bit on Shirley Avenue to kind of circumvent the revenue loss there. So Broadway is still being looked at, and I look forward to the pilot program. Thank you very much.
Councilor Haas?
Thank you, Madam President. Like both my fellow councilors said, this could be a great boost for local businesses, takeout, running in to pay a bill, running in to grab something from a store quickly. I know Arlington had put something in with the 50-minute meters, I think last year or 2 years ago, and there were some issues with the program, so maybe we can do like a how-to. I know it sounds easy, but maybe for a senior or someone who English is a second language, maybe the city could have a video how-to, even if it's, you just push the button. I know that's being updated, but great motion that I fully support. Great boost for local businesses, and we speak so highly of our local businesses, and I think that's a great issue. Thank you.
Councilor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a great idea, and as my colleague said, Shirley Ave's rearing to go. We're just waiting for the parts and equipment to come in and get the things rolling by the end of the winter. And it is a great idea. It saves a lot of people a lot of aggravation. And so I'm for this 100%, and I hope things work out also on Broadway. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Motion to speak from the chair? I also really agree with this motion. It would benefit both the businesses and the visitors in the community by allowing them flexibility and convenience. And I think it would also help with parking enforcement. It gives them, less time to run around, go crazy, trying to ticket them the second that they park there. Then they realize that they do have, and it'll create, make it more community-friendly, I believe. So I'm also in agreement. And if there's no further discussion, anybody from the audience would like to speak? No? Then I would like to vote on this favorably. Madam Clerk?
Shall the Economic Development Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to the full city council to approve the motion? Counselor Agenzio?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hess?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Jaramillo?
Absolutely.
Absent. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairwoman Guarino Sawaya?
Yes.
Yes, the motion has received a favorable recommendation and will be forwarded to the city council this evening. Next item is Council Order 24-256, a presentation by the Chief of Planning and Community Development and Jason Schreiber of Stantec on the Broadway Corridor Parking Study.
Mr. Skorsky?
Good evening, councilors. Tom Skrowski, 281 Broadway. You don't have Mr. Schreiber this evening, just me. I think the motion was a carryover from the original presentation, which I actually believe was in 2024, maybe early 2025. And this is just a follow-up, and because there already was a presentation of the full study to this committee, I'm just going to catch up on where we've been since that study was initially released, and some of the work that we're doing and some of the work that is still to come. Councilor McKenna had just mentioned one of the key items, which are those the 15-minute loading zone spots, which we are going to be incorporating as one of the follow-up items from that study. So I think make sure we're live here. I'm not sure if that means it's not working or something I did. I'm trying to do it again. Andrew, always to the rescue.
Do you have mirroring on that?
If You're all waiting so patiently.
If anyone can fix it, it's Ashley.
All right, I have emailed it to you. Better than me. All right, it is sent, so you should have received. It's over on hers now. I got a new computer.
Until we can get our laptops up and running here, we're going to skip to the next motion. Council Order 25-032, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky, that the mayor request the city solicitor to draft an ordinance regulating the placement, installation, and removal of satellite dishes.
Council Novoselsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I put this in the beginning of the year, and we did get a response from the city solicitor saying that they're under FCC ruling and we can't touch those satellite dishes. But I disagree. There's something can be done. It's just a matter of putting some time into it, and researching, and to try and make things happen to help our city. Those satellite dishes are terrible to look at. Some of them have 6 and 7 dishes on a small house. And when people leave, the dishes stay and not being used. And we're not saying we want to ban them altogether, we just want to control them. And have a minimum of 1 or 2, depending on, some of the satellite dishes require 2 dishes to operate. And, you know, I'm very disappointed in the city solicitor that they just kind of brushed this off and just gave a boilerplate recommendation or ruling. But, you know, I'm willing to let this go and place it on file, if you would. Thank you.
All in favor, all opposed to place it on file?
Next matter is Council Order 25-271, communication from the Chief of Planning and Community Development relative to ongoing economic development initiatives throughout the city.
Evening again. I'm actually going to be faced with the same challenge here because I had a whole presentation planned. That said, I could probably start, if it pleases the chair, with the Broadway parking study because it's not as visual. I think I could probably talk all of it through. I'll use the slideshow as my cue cards, if you will, just on my laptop, but I think I can talk with you all about the various things. Great. Oh, wait, are they gonna? Somebody got creative. You know what? There we go. I admire the ingenuity here. Andrew's always here to solve a problem. So since we last met and talked, we've been working on a lot of the recommendations that came out of the Broadway parking study, and I'll talk about them in brief, both what they were as a whole and then the ones that we've taken action on, what action have we taken. So there were some strategies focused on fixing the existing deficiencies in the system, improving the effectiveness and efficiency of how we enforce and monitor parking regulations, and finally, supporting the development and the master plan on Broadway more broadly, the goals of that project. So first with wayfinding, we had a goal here to improve signage indicating off-street public parking, specifically the Central Avenue lot, which is not well signed today. And we saw through the Broadway parking study that there's a lot of meat left on the bone with the Central Ave lot. The vast majority of folks do not park there as opposed to on-street where we have a bigger parking issue. So one of the recommendations was taking a look at wayfinding. And we actually have up in our office right now the first example of some wayfinding that's going to be implemented throughout Broadway next week. You'll see a bunch of these signs throughout the city that will point people to various points of interest along Broadway as well as to the various parking locations. We also took a look at parking lot access and specifically on Central Avenue, what we could do to make Acela Court, which is the walkway from Broadway to the Central Avenue lot, a little bit more welcoming and inviting. We partnered with a group called Neighborways Design, who worked with city volunteers, folks from my department. The mayor was there as well, actually doing some participatory work on the ground, taking various designs that have been created and actually implementing it to create kind of a welcoming, and you've probably seen on Acela Court, the designs are there today. It's beautiful. It brings a little light to that area and that corridor. Our next step, in addition to having art bring light, we're actually going to literally try to bring light to Acela Court, lighting up some of the existing streetlights that are not currently working, and also potentially experimenting with something like you've seen in other communities where you have kind of the hanging string lighting, just something to make that feel a little bit more playful and welcoming, and again, to draw people's attention to Central Ave, which is a really underutilized parking corridor in the city. There were also recommendations about regulatory streamlining operations in the Central Ave lot, eliminating all the various areas designated for permits and hourly parking, managing demand through the number of permits sold and pricing, and restriping to actually increase the supply on the lot, and removing the time limits for the Central Ave lot. And there were similarly suggestions on the City Hall lot, eliminating the various separations amongst the various spots in the lot right behind us at City Hall, removing the 2-hour limits, and pricing the lot and adjacent side streets as well, because those tend to be some of the higher utilized areas within the whole Broadway parking study area. So you could see here it's about 84% utilized, and we like to think of with parking policy, 85% is kind of the perfect fit, where things are working, where there's always a little bit of parking to go around, but you're not sitting with a lot of underutilized parking that we're just kind of leaving those existing spots on the table. So this is sort of the ideal, and we want to keep it there, but once we're at that range, we want to use price as a mechanism to control demand so we don't get at 95%, which is, you know, where you can never find a spot to park, or certainly 100%. Another recommendation was to utilize Parking Benefits District money to implement recommendations in the plan, and we actually have already started to do that. The Parking Benefits District, as Councilor Argenzio had mentioned, not only is paying for the 15-minute sensors along Broadway, which will be from Prospect Ave to Yeaman Street, but it also is helping to support the signage and wayfinding installation that's going to be undergoing on the length of Broadway next week. They also recommended performance pricing. This is not something we've done yet, but they would recommend higher prices along the core of Broadway, no pricing in some of the areas where there's not a lot of utilization, and cheaper prices on the side streets, and again, ultimately eliminating time limits overall. And then they took a look at shared parking and just said, I think long-term thoughts were that we could utilize shared parking as a way to significantly enhance our parking supply in the city. This would be looking at privately held lots within the Broadway area and whether through arrangements with housing developers and those property owners, or with the city and those property owners, utilizing some of those underutilized private parking lots along Broadway to, again, increase the supply of publicly available parking for businesses and residents along this corridor. They also recommended parking ambassadors, developing a program to provide parking information to the public while supporting parking enforcement. So it's kind of like a friendly face where people can see and explain what to do and what not to do. Councilor Haas had mentioned earlier with the new 15-minute loading zones, how can we make sure that people understand how to utilize the system? And that's certainly one way that parking ambassadors could serve that role. And then various enforcement technologies. They recommended license plate recognition. And actually, this is something we have since the study is done. We now have this throughout our parking enforcement system. So it's a way to help enhance enforcement and to streamline things for the enforcement staff. Long story short, where they can have, through a camera system that monitors use of the parking spots, they have real-time, up-to-date information about who's parked where and who shouldn't be where they're parking. And then loading and dynamic curbs, as Councilor McKenna and Councilor Argenzio put forward. This was a recommendation where we actually don't have designated loading zones along Broadway to create some dynamic loading zones within our existing parking supply. So we will be installing this. We placed the order last week, as was mentioned, both along Shirley Avenue, but also along Broadway. And it's actually not a green button system. They've upgraded the technology, so it's actually super simple. I'm hoping that the rollout challenges that Councilor Hassett mentioned won't even be an issue, because essentially it's a sensor that's placed on those spots that tells when somebody pulls up. And if you pull up, the sensor immediately starts, and you have 15 minutes of a grace period before pricing ultimately kicks in. And then that helps to make a real-time enforcement of when that starts. But also, we heard a lot with the green button system that people would just walk by on the street and continuously press the green button for people that had way overstayed their welcome. So this is a way to actually ensure that this system is used for what it was intended, which is for dynamic loading. You're picking up your food, you're picking up your dry cleaning, but you're not staying there all day. And here's the pilot area, as mentioned. Delivery is TBD. It's just basically based off of the vendor at this point. So I would hesitate to make an estimate, but I assume sometime in early 2026. And then parklets were a recommendation that they made, which you've probably seen before, parks in parking spaces. We've toyed with that in other parts of the city, and Shirley Avenue being one of them. I don't think this is something we're going to do anytime soon on Broadway, but that was one of the recommendations of the plan. And then they looked at, again, leveraging the existing capacity to support development. So if additional development is taking place on Broadway, I think one of their main recommendations is we need to look deeper into shared parking as a mechanism to broaden and expand the parking supply. So overall, looking at the recommendations, you could see just a few of them that I've crossed off that we've already started to take on: wayfinding, utilizing our parking benefits district, parking lot access through Ocella Court, enhanced enforcement technologies, loading and dynamic curbs are just a few. And then some that we haven't worked on yet but intend to, and then some like the parklets that we'll probably think about for a future use, but not something we'll be looking at anytime soon. So at that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Councilor Genzio.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Skorowski, thank you for making your presentation. A couple of things. One of them, the Central Ave parking lot. I know you say that's very underutilized, and this wayfinding is going to try to help people find that lot and use that. And then that's at a cheaper price than Broadway as it exists now?
It's cheaper as it exists today, yes.
Okay.
Their recommendations were to potentially even lower it more.
Okay. And I know the housing production plan that was before us, that recommended using that area as affordable housing. So those two different plans recommending two different things for that space. Have we landed on what we really want to do with that central parking lot?
I think for the time being, we'll be using it as a parking lot and updating the policies accordingly in line with the study.
Okay. And I believe before the Traffic Commission, or it may be going there, are parking meters going to appear again on Pleasant and Hyde and Foster like they were in the past and they were removed? Are they coming back?
I think that's something that might be under consideration, but I haven't heard a definitive answer on that yet. I think if we were to take this 15-minute dynamic loading zone to scale, it might be something we'd want to look at in more detail, but I'd want to make sure our parking director is there for that answer.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Madam Chairman.
Okay, so recommend that we place this on file and look forward to the planning and development during, bring this back up during the next council next year. All in favor?
And, nope, we're on the, sorry, Council Order 25-271. We're going back to the communication from the Chief of Planning and Community Development relative to ongoing economic development initiatives throughout the city. I just need to email this presentation over to Revere TV, and they were going to bring it up for us. Thank you.
Well, we're working on the technology. I could at least start framing the discussion for tonight. I appreciate your patience as we're working through this, but we're going to be talking about two separate but certainly related issues. The first of them being just giving you all an update as to some key economic development projects that are in the pipeline with the city. Councilor Guerion Osuaya and I were talking recently and realized that the Economic Development Council hasn't had a lot of updates on some of the exciting economic development work in the city. So my biggest reason for first talking about some of these projects is to get you all thinking as a committee about what we might want to look at into the new year. So I'm going to run through quickly a few different projects that will just get you all thinking about a few key projects underway and things we might be able to talk about in 2026. And then the second portion of the meeting, and where I'd like to devote the most time tonight, is talking about the Transformative Development Initiative, or TDI, along Shirley Avenue. I have Laura Christopher, who is our TDI fellow, who's been working with us for the last 3.5 years. We're fortunate enough to have her through a state grant TDI until the end of June, and hopefully far beyond, because we'll be talking about some of the great things that Laura and the TDI partnership have been able to do over the last 3.5 years, but also looking ahead, I'd like to get your endorsement on a potential new district that we'll be looking at as Mass Development has opened the door to a new district application that will be due in just a couple weeks. So I don't know if we've got everything up, Ashley, and we could get rolling. Okay, great. All right. So, Andrew, it's kind of rapid fire here, so I'll just say next as we're going through them. But you could start with the economic development projects, and I want to just review briefly some various small business supports for the community, just so people are aware of some of the things that we have at offer. I think we've got a number of exciting different ways that we can help support the small business community, all of which I think would be good things to talk about in a separate meeting in more detail, because I think we are really trying, and you know, my team, whether John Fester or Julie DeMauro in my office, are working really hard to support our small business community, and I think part of it is making sure that folks are aware of the great resources we have. So hopefully this is the start of an opportunity to have that conversation with you all. If you could go to the next slide. Down a few more. There we go. All right, so the first one is our small business lending program, which we have loans that we can provide low to no cost are low to no interest loans to small businesses throughout the city. Eligibility, you either need to have 5 employees or less and be an income eligible proprietor, which is low to moderate income, or you are hiring or retaining income eligible employees, and it must be a brick and mortar location. The terms are 5-year loans, 0% loans on Shirley Avenue or Broadway, and 6 months payments can be forgiven if all the other 55 payments are made in full. So we launched this program about 3 years ago, and we have over a dozen loans that we've offered throughout the small business community in the city, and we're looking to expand that program further. We still do have this community development block grant from the federal government, and one of our biggest priorities every year is to continue to support our small business community. So that's one of the ways we do it. The next way, if you could go to the next slide, Andrew, is through technical assistance. So oftentimes when we're hearing from small businesses that are looking to open up a business, or maybe they're struggling because they're not reaching the right target audience with their marketing strategies, maybe they need help putting a business plan together, we have a partnership with Rhodes Consulting, where we offer marketing and business planning and other forms of support to small businesses. The eligibility is similar to the Small Business Loan Fund. They're both funded through the Community Development Block Grant Program. And oftentimes, if you are getting a loan through the city, we utilize this tool as a way to make sure that the loan is coupled with support. So we're giving folks not just financial resources, but assistance on putting together a solid business plan to take their business to the marketplace. And then a couple ones just quite briefly in the interest of time. The Mass Save Main Streets Initiative is one we're actually going to be launching this month in partnership with our North Suffolk Office of Resiliency and Sustainability. We actually have a Mass Save rep who's going to the small business community throughout the city, talking about how you can make your buildings more energy efficient and save on energy costs, which are exponentially rising, as you all know. And that's something where want to make sure the business community is aware of. And if you have any questions on, you can contact John Fester, our small business liaison for the city. And then finally, in 2026, in partnership with the mayor's office, we're going to be launching a starting a business in Revere series. And it'll be kind of like Business 101, essentially, where we'll be working on lease negotiation, business planning, and marketing workshops, and then might even work up to Business 201 and kind of more advanced business planning activities. And this is an effort, again, to have a better front door at the city through our office and the mayor's office to make sure we're helping to support our small businesses. And then a few exciting projects that are underway. One is what I'm calling the Wonderland Area Plan. So we recently received a grant from Mass Development where we're going to be conceptually developing a master plan for underutilized properties all around the Revere High School. This includes Wonderland Marketplace, Water's Edge, which is currently in bankruptcy, and as you know, 2 of the properties are actually condemned, and it's a huge underutilized asset in the city. And then the Wonderland MBTA surface parking lot, which the MBTA has expressed interest in partnering with us on a potential project there. So we're using this real estate technical assistance for Mass Development to basically put a plan together on what all this will look like. It's kind of nestled in the middle of the exciting work happening at the high school and everything, of course, that's been happening over the last decade along Revere Beach. If you go to the next slide, you can actually see just a quick photo of the areas we're talking about here. And the plan will be to have this completed in June of 2026. I actually think this would be a great thing to talk about with the committee in the new year when the study's completed. It's one of the things I'm most excited about tackling from an economic development perspective. This is a lot of land right next to the T and right next to a lot of exciting things underway. And then next up, we have the Square Road Master Plan. And this is going to be funded through the Mass Gaming Commission's Community Mitigation Fund. It's going to look at transportation. It's going to look at economic development and overall just opportunities along the Square Road corridor. This is going to build on the Road to Revere, which I think some of you participated in last year, which was a Harvard student study that looked at what the possibilities are along this corridor. You can see in one of the subsequent photos, and I'll also email this out so everybody has access to it. a rendering from one of the students, or at least a drawing of, the ideas that came out of that study were really about reconnecting Squire Road to the marsh. We have one of the largest salt marshes in the greater Boston area right behind Squire Road, and you wouldn't even know it if you were standing there. And you have this beautiful natural resource, and how could we, in a master planning effort, again, not 5 years from now, probably 10, 15 years from now, create a plan and set the framework for reconnecting with the marsh, and reconnecting that whole area potentially to a new pattern of development that helps act more as a steward of the natural environment, but also creates open space and creates new economic development and housing opportunities. So we aim to start that work probably a bit later in 2026. Maybe that's something we could talk about with the committee about a year ago, or a year from now, rather. As that study's really underway, I'll certainly be looking to gather all of your input to make sure we've got a holistic and a ambitious, but also a reasonable and feasible strategy moving forward. And then some Broadway master plan follow-ups, and we brief here. We talked about the wayfinding already. We are at the tail end of some sign and facade improvements that have been going on over the last year and a half. Hopefully you've seen some of the great work. The photo on the next slide is Hector's Barbershop and the Good Diner, one of many great facelifts that we've seen on Broadway through our sign and facade program, and work that was recently expanded to Shirley Avenue. And then in 2026, we also got funding through the Mass Gaming Commission to look at zoning and design standards along the corridor. I know we've had a few different housing projects that have come up in front of the City Council as of late, and some of them, I think, had some very impressive designs that fit well within the character of the Broadway corridor. And just to be frank, some did not. And I think one of the ways we can use zoning is really helping to create a roadmap for what we want to see and the types of design that would really be appropriate and fitting in more appropriately with the Broadway corridor. So before we get into TDI, again, with the idea that these are all things that I'd love to hear from you all more about in 2026, but I will pause for any questions you might have, because I know I just covered a lot of ground.
Councilor Genzio.
Thank you. Have you heard from the MBTA about the Blue Line extension there, the stop over by the high school? Any talk of that?
Finally,
Oh.
yes. So we've had a $5 million earmark for 3.5 years for a commuter rail station at Wonderland, and we have not yet been able to access it, but we've been very relentless, both myself and the mayor's office, in making sure that that money comes to Revere. And just within the last month, we got word that they're initiating the study, and they're going to have a follow-up meeting with us. So I'm firmly in the camp of, trust but verify. I'll believe it when I see it, but it is better news than I've heard in recent months. And, to their credit, I think the MBTA has done a great job of fixing their existing resources, but because of that, I think they've been narrowly focused on what's in front of them, not what we need to be thinking about into the future. So
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Good news.
So I recommend that the city council place this on file. All in favor? Yeah. Seeing no further business, this concludes the November 10th Economic Development Subcommittee meeting. One more? Do we have another one?
yeah, sorry, that was kind of a 2-for-1.
Oh, well then, proceed.
Yeah, you're hearing a lot from me today, which is why I brought Laura Christopher here, our TDI fellow, who's been working in the Shirley Avenue neighborhood. That presentation had 2 parts to it, and I wanted to take some time to talk and celebrate the work that we've done. TDI actually just received a statewide award from Mass Inc. through the Gateways Innovation Summit just last week or 2, and Laura's got the trophy, but we got it in Lowell for the wonderful work that she's been doing in leading this partnership. And I think it's a partnership worth celebrating and talking about, because we got to think about what's ahead. So we recognize time is of the essence, so we'll try to get moving here. But first of all, just talking about what TDI is, on the next slide you'll see, TDI is really about, Laura, I'm going to hand it to you. It's about our fellow, so I'm going to let her do the talking. Yeah.
Sure. So TDI is a place-based neighborhood scale investment program. You'll see some of the core tenets is to have a geographic focus. This is so, you all saw this in what was presented about Broadway too. When investments happen together, you really can start to build momentum and feed off one another. There is a time-limited partnership, but this is Mass Development saying, we'll be at the table with these cities and communities for 3 years. It's not an upfront transaction, it's an ongoing partnership, and it's guided by local partners. So the City of Revere as a core partner, as well as private parties like Women Encouraging Empowerment and the neighborhood developers. In the case of Shirley Ave, that changes per city. During those 3 years, now 4 with an extension, participating neighborhoods get a fellow, so that's the role I'm lucky enough to be in, and I've really enjoyed partnering with Revere. Also, they get access, the cities get access to technical assistance and consultants, as well as implementation funds. There's also competitive access to arts and culture programming funds and real estate grants.
And I might do my best to just work through this rapidly so you could take any questions that you might have, because that's actually, I want to take advantage of the limited time we have to do so. But yeah, we received an award. We look great, don't we? Next slide, just some of the great things that TDI did that allowed us to receive that award. TDI provides small business grants. Like we mentioned on Broadway, there's sign and facade improvements on Broadway. We utilize TDI to carry that over to the Shirley Avenue neighborhood as well. You can see Kelly's Beauty Salon here, and right next to it, Las Delicias were 2 of the recipients. In the next slide, you'll see through our Shared Spaces program, we help support, and this is really something Laura identified, where you had businesses that were having trouble making the rent under soaring development costs. Ways in which you could couple multiple businesses in one. The example we see here is Chocolat Cafe, and they were able to put together a podcast studio in their cafe. If you haven't been there or filmed a podcast there, you should. It's a beautiful space that we help support through this grant. And also there's a fund called TDI Equity that helped, among other things, F&J Juice actually move from being a tenant to a property owner in their beautiful property on Shirley Avenue. And you know, it wasn't just a grant, it leveraged a significant amount of private investment on their part and our CDBG loan fund. So there was a lot of various methods of support in addition to bank support going into this project. So using those small dollar grants to leverage much bigger funds. And then placemaking in the next slide. So TDI is also about experimenting and creating new activities and events. In 2022, when if you recall, the World Cup was moved to the winter, we decided to have a World Cup viewing at the Shirley Avenue off-street parking lot. And it was winter, so we didn't get a lot of people, but what we did get was the idea to take this to the next big event, which was Copa America, and this was an event actually put on by the city, but spurred by what first happened at the TDI partnership in 2022, and as hopefully some of you were there to see Columbia in 2024. It was in a really electric atmosphere, and actually something we're hoping to replicate in the new year with the World Cup coming to Boston and Foxborough soon enough.
They lost the final by 13 points, right?
No comment. Then a few other great things that TDI has done. We had a participatory budgeting exercise where in 2023 we had folks vote on over $500,000 of investment in the neighborhood on what they wanted to see. Some of the great things to come out of that. What we're calling the urban forest on 69 Shirley, Fitzhenry Park, the dog park that recently had shovels in the ground, started construction on, that will be done shortly, as well as Flaherty Square. All were different things that were identified through that process and paid for through participatory budgeting and wouldn't have happened without TDI. And what TDI also allowed us to do was leverage grant funding to take our impact further. So we were able to give out over $500,000 because TDI got us a $280,000 grant from the Housing Choice Program at the state. One of many different ways in which TDI took a little bit of money and turned it into a lot of outside money through grants and leveraged impact. And actually just recently we were able to announce we got $2.75 million for water main improvements along Ocean Avenue. Those were improvements that the city was going to have to pay for one way or another. And now we have $2.7 $75 million to spend on other things, in part because of the story that we've been telling about the growth along Shirley Avenue and the Shirley Avenue Partnership. And through the work the partnership has done, has helped us unlock millions of dollars, this being the most recent and most exciting. And SANA, the Shirley Avenue Neighborhood Association, we're not just focused on the partners at the table here, but actually working with the small business community and understanding that this is a time-limited project. Eventually, we're not going to be here, at least the partnership won't be here like it is today, and handing it over to the small business community to actually help maintain some of this progress that we've been seeing. So it's not just a 3 or 4 year program, but it continues well beyond that. One of the things that SANA helped support in the last year was in the last month, I should say, was Shirley Eats, which hopefully some of you participated in over the month of October. It was basically a restaurant month in the district where you go with a passport and get your passport signed. And each restaurant had their own unique take on a new menu item. One of them was Dubai chocolate waffles, which I didn't even know what Dubai chocolate was until I went to Napoles to get it, and it was delicious. And hopefully one of many ways that the small business community is kind of working to support the culture there. And then we offered technical support through TDI, and this is district improvement financing, was one such tool where they helped us look at a tool that's kind of a creative budgeting tool we can use to harness future growth to support a neighborhood. Way too complicated to talk about in 2 minutes, but they have a pilot study that I'll share with the council after this meeting that use Shirley Avenue as a test case for what this would look like. But this is a tool we might want to use on Broadway. This is a tool we might want to use on Squire Road. This might even be a tool we want to use in the Wonderland area that I just referenced before. And we couldn't have gotten that initial support without TDI. And the final thing, and Andrew, if you maybe go to slide 32, is we're going to be applying for a new district very soon, and we're looking at the Revere Beach, what we're calling the Revere Beach TDI district, because we have to compete with all the other gateway cities in the Commonwealth for a TDI designation, and at least to my knowledge, we are the only TDI district or TDI community that has a beach. And maybe a couple others have a beach, but we have the best one. So the best one, the first one, all the above. So we're trying to look at all of the things that Shirley Avenue has been doing, building upon that, and how can we leverage Revere Beach tourism to support local businesses? That was my first meeting with Mayor Keefe, the first question he asked me, and something we're going to try to take on with this project if we're awarded. Placemaking, how can we better activate the waterfront? So all that green space that DCR owns and manages that just kind of sits there dormant, how can we utilize that to create more activities all year round? How can we improve non-vehicular travel to and from the beach? That includes the commuter rail station. That includes Bike to the Sea, creating a safe path for families to get from the northern strand to the beach and points in between. And then how do we build upon the development of Shirley Avenue and Waterfront Square in these kind of underutilized properties that I had referenced? And how do we tie in also what's happening at the high school in Suffolk Downs and kind of create some connected district? So we're applying for that hopefully at the end of the month. I hope I'd have your blessing, although I know we're brief in this discussion today. So I've talked a lot. Happy to take any questions you might have.
Any committee members have some? Councilor Hass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Guys, congratulations on the award. Tom, I had a quick question with the TDI. Was that a 3-year process or?
Yes, it was a 3-year designation, and there were originally 12 communities. Only 5 of them were extended. 6 were extended. So we were one of 6 that were actually extended for another year.
And is this something Revere might have a chance every 3 years on getting a new district or a new location that we can work on?
As far as we know.
Yeah, that's the goal. So hopefully if we get awarded in November, we'll have another 3 years.
And I know you talked about the beach being probably the most likely district for the next one. And any other locations other than Wonderland and Broadway that you considered?
So I think Broadway and then Squire Road would be probably another one into the future. I think This one's going to be really competitive, so we wanted to, again, First Beach and all that, go with the most competitive location. But I think in the future, those are ones we're eyeing up, because this will be hopefully a program that will continue.
Great, thanks. Congrats on the award, by the way. Thank you.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, again, I've already told Laura this, congratulations, it's a great award. This has been the best 3 years I've seen down in Shirley Ave. She's been so proactive to get all the businesses together and work together, and working with the Shirley Ave Business Association that they're putting together, a neighborhood association. And everybody is so excited working together. And it's just been great, with the city providing the funds for the frontage of all the stores and the parking plans. Just everything has been so great, and it's put everybody together as a community and working as a team. And I love it. I've been involved in all the projects that they've had down there. And I wish we can have Laura longer than next June. So, but it's just been awesome to be able to work with her and her work with all the people involved on Shirley Ave. So thank you again.
I recommend that the City Council place this on file, and looking forward to discussing it next council term. Seeing that there is no further business, this concludes the November 10th Economic Development Subcommittee meeting, and the regular City Council meeting will begin at 6 p.m. Thank you.